Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Between the Covers podcast, where we are working every day to remove the self-limiting beliefs that are preventing us from becoming the heroes of our own stories. I am Marcus Spar, and today, let's just take a look at one of the very important things about what we think and believe about ourselves. If you saw by the title, we're talking about, believe it or not, you're right. This is something that I have mentioned to clients and even to my partner Libby and friends quite frequently. It's something I need to remind myself about. And that is that the things that we think about ourselves oftentimes become what we believe. And because of the power that our minds have on us, we can take these thoughts that become beliefs and turn those into our reality. And we can see this almost anywhere in society. If you believe that there is some kind of inherent danger with a certain group of people, then you're right. You're going to find that. And it can come through just how someone looks at you, how someone acts around you. But you will find evidence to prove that what you believe is right. If you believe that you are no good, if you believe that there is something wrong with you, if you believe that you're a bad person, if you believe that you were born as a bad person, you're right. Those thoughts and those beliefs are going to cause you to behave in a way that makes that true. And the opposite is just as true. If you believe that you are a good person, if you believe that you're flawed, but you're doing the best that you can, if you believe that in society there is generally a net positive when you are interacting with other people, then you're right. You're going to have those kind of interactions. A lot of this comes down to how we view the world around us. And I'm going to pick on Christians again because they're a stellar example of this. I heard so many times that I was involved in some kind of spiritual war. There was warfare going on all the time, and that turned out to be true when I was a Christian, when I believed that. I could look around me at people that were not a part of my group and see that they were a threat to these Christian beliefs, these traditions against my community. And that's something that we're seeing now with the extreme religious right, is they are believing that there is some kind of war, that they are threatened, and they're acting that way. And they are finding the evidence that proves that this is true. And this is one of the crazy things about it. The evidence that they're finding, the evidence that we are finding with these beliefs, they can be completely contradictory to what we actually believe. But those facts are not going to come through. And this is one of those things where when we're having, say, conversations with people, and we have kind of a testy conversation, there's a topic that comes up that can just ruffle people's feathers and everything, there is nothing that you can really do in how you present the facts that are going to change what they believe. Facts don't do that. Facts can be ignored. And for a lot of these people, what they believe is what's true. And facts can change. In a lot of cases, they do. I heard that a lot growing up. Facts do change. The truth never does. Now, if only that were true. because the truth about that is the truth does change. It changes based on what you believe. I grew up believing that individuals like my two friends, John and Dan, were evil people. Anyone who was homosexual, anyone who was LGBTQIA+, anyone who was in an open relationship or an open marriage, anyone who was polyamorous, because I grew up during a time when it was just one man, one woman, and their kids. That was the most important family dynamic. And I was raised to believe that anything outside of that was evil. It was wrong. It was bad. Well, I don't believe that anymore. I'm thankful I don't believe that anymore. And you know what? My truth changed with it. Now, I know that if I'm having a conversation with an extreme conservative evangelical Christian, they will say no, but the Bible says that the truth is this, and I don't believe that. Therefore, it's not the truth for me. Our truth changes based on what we believe. And the thing that is so powerful about that is whatever you believe about yourself and about the world makes it right. It's effectively putting on a pair of glasses that filters the world according to your bias, so that you see evidence that reinforces this bias, and it discredits or filters out evidence that contradicts it. I think a great example of this comes from over here in southeastern Washington state. We used to have a lot of Rite Aids. And I mean, hell, I even worked at a Rite Aid when I was in college. And I knew something was going on with bankruptcy and trying to pay back debts, and they were restructuring and what have you. And all of a sudden, I just saw all the Rite Aids around here closing. And I'm like, I wonder what actually happened. I thought they got that resolved. And so earlier this week, I finally got around to actually looking into it. And one of the things that disturbed me was I saw videos of people raiding Rite Aids and just stealing from them. And the thing that bothered me the most about it was the only footage I ever saw of this were people of color who were stealing from these stores. That tends to create a narrative that anyone who is a person of color is dangerous, is a threat, is willing to steal. And guess what? If that's what you believe, then you're right. You are going to only notice people of color who are doing something that you deem as wrong and illegal. And you're also going to miss out on all of the people of color who don't. You're going to miss all of the examples of people of this minority group who do very law-abiding, safe behaviors and activities within their community, who are actually helping. But no, in the United States, we have a narrative that anyone who isn't white, like me, anyone who isn't heterosexual and cisgender, like me, is dangerous. And that's just total bullshit. Total bullshit. But if that's what you believe, then you're going to be right. This is super important. What you think impacts what you believe. And those beliefs impact how you see the world and society around you. If you believe that there are people who are just out to get you, then you are going to look at your neighbor with suspicion. And I'm going to get a little biblical here in this example. There was this time when Jesus was sharing a parable because he was telling people that, this might have even been the Sermon on the Mount or somewhere else, but someone had posed what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus effectively said to love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And second to that is love your neighbor as yourself. And then someone posed the question, well, who is my neighbor? And then he gives a parable where he talks about two upstanding Jewish people who just pass by someone who is hurt because their traditions and their beliefs said that if they got close to this person, then they were going to become unclean. And it was the person who was an enemy of the nation of Israel was the one who acted neighborly to this Jew. And I remember I grew up a ton hearing this story. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan, if you're unfamiliar with the story. And I see so many people who act more like the righteous and higher than thou people that were not good, that were not helpful, that were not neighborly to this person who was in need. I just realized what I'm saying here, because I believe that there's a lot of people out there who do not see the world the way that I was told that they were supposed to see it as a Christian. What are the examples of Christianity that I tend to see? It also doesn't help that with Christian nationalism, I am seeing a ton of examples of poor Christian behavior, and it's thrown in my face all the time. It takes extra effort for me to see examples of good Christians in the United States. But if you believe that people are out to get you, then you're going to see suspicious behavior from everyone, including your neighbors, including your family. If you believe that that's not the case, if you believe that people are inherently good and that you're living in a safe neighborhood, you're going to find examples where it is safe, that you're surrounded by good people. Now, this isn't to say that we shouldn't be careful by any means. Yet, it is important to note that our beliefs have a much wider impact on how we view the world than I honestly think most people will give credit to. And this is one of those things where I want to challenge these beliefs. And I'm not talking about your beliefs. I'm talking about mine too. What are some beliefs that you have that are creating a narrative that is making it true in your world? Just like me, with looking at the Christian community, and really all I can see are really terrible examples. That's because that's what I'm looking for. That's what I believe is out there. And it doesn't have to be that way. Because if that were true, then I wouldn't have the friendship that I do with some of my friends who are Christian. I would not be able to see the people who are actually doing good work and trying to have a positive impact on their community. It leaves us with really getting down to the foundation of our lives, which are our beliefs. What are the things that you're telling yourself that are impacting the lens in which you see the world around you? And there are definitely systems that do make things challenging for people. I'm not so naive to think that someone who is a person of color is going to have it easy in this society, because there are so many systems that have been created that works against them. There are some who have overcome these systemically racial boundaries or guardrails that are keeping them downtrodden. There's a lot of people who haven't at the same time. It is important, though, for us to be aware of what our beliefs are and how they are coloring the world that we live in. I just realized the metaphor that I use there, because it goes back to something else that I say. Things are not black and white. They're really not. The world is filled in with such diverse colors that having such a narrow view of the world and the people in it, can't put them into that. It's not going to fit within that black and white thinking. It's important for us to have space and room for all of the colors. It's important for us to have the space to fill in the white and the black with beautiful colors that tell us that things are oftentimes different from how we think, from how we believe. That's what I want to leave you with here today. Whether you believe it or not, in the end, you're right. Check the filter of which you are seeing the world. The filter that we call our beliefs. You could be missing out on some beautiful and stellar examples of the opposite of what your beliefs are telling you. And you can have a much, much fuller life. And how nice would it be to have a world where we don't see so much negativity, so much tribalism, so much hate for other people that don't look or believe like we do. That's the kind of world that I want. I want a world where all are welcome. I want a world where everyone is free to be who they are. It's unfortunate that there's so much of the world that is moving counter to that these days. It doesn't have to be that way, though. A quick reminder before closing out here. If you're enjoying this, please give this podcast a rating and a review. If it's on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. If you have questions about anything that I brought up here, you can send me an email at questions.btcpod@gmail.com. And I am looking forward to talking with you again in the next episode. And until next time, live strong for today.